I made the claim after Martin Zubimendi's first appearance for Arsenal in pre-season against AC Milan that already this felt like his team. A full pre-season, 5 competitive games and a surprising yet spectacular brace against Nottingham Forest later. And that's only become more apparent. New dynamics and partnerships have formed as a result of Zubamendi. The team's very identity, the speeds we play at, the risks we are willing to take are in the process of being reshaped, all of which today's video is going to unpack and analyse. Maybe most importantly though, Zubamendi's smile never seems to have left his face. Welcome back to the Harvey Gratian YouTube channel. I'm so glad you found us or are joining us once again. And after waxing lyrical about Martin Zubimendi all throughout the summer, I simply had to make this video. I'm really enjoying watching Arsenal at the moment. There's a lightness, there's a different energy this season which can be attributed in aggregate to the new signings as a whole, but Zubamendi feels the centre of that. Whatever happens this season, I think we will all be looking back at this signing and saying, yeah, in retrospect, it was pretty obvious that in order to get to the place that we are desperate to get to, or to reach that next level, we needed to sign Martin Zubimendi. This guy is a special footballer. So with that, let's dive into how he's already transforming this Arteta Arsenal side. The first thing for me to reassert about Zubamendi is that this is a different kind of number 6 or deep line playmaker, whatever you want to label him as. I've spoken about the similarities between a Zubamendi and a Vitinha or a João Neves, but that doesn't quite suffice in demonstrating how Zubamendi, even though he might not be touching the ball always, is giving us such control and unpredictability in possession and in build-up. I was trying to find the right phrasing for my analysis here, and this reply to one of my tweets came up, which surmises it perfectly for me. To organise the build-up, sometimes it's best to be somewhere else. Looking back at the Nottingham Forest game, Ange looked to man-mark our midfield, and Zubamendi essentially toyed with them. A feature of Zubamendi's game is how high he is comfortable to move, dragging Gibbs-White here with him to maximise the time and space Mosquera has on the ball. Gibbs-White gets impatient and jumps, leaving Anderson to deal with Nwaneri and Zubamendi. I love Mosquera too, and I need to dedicate another video to him, but watch Zubamendi as Mosquera sweeps a pass into the now free Nwaneri. Ethan gives and goes with Madueke, and Gibbs-White is left in between markers. Zubamendi is released, he carries, changes the angle, and sets up Eza. It's not just about the balance he gives us when he moves high, but Zubamendi is genuinely additive in these zones too. Once again we see Forest man marking, Zubamendi plays the wall pass to Mosquera and once again is left to play in that cover shadow under Gibbs-White. Mosquera wraps it into Odegaard, who bounces it to Zubamendi, who stops Anderson before going against his momentum on the dribble. Calafiori has now spawned into this tip of a diamond false 90 role, because why not? And his marker, Ndoye, the right winger for Forest, basically gives a look that says, I didn't sign up for this. Calafiori flicks it first time into Odegaard, who has options to release. We see then here the ripple effects Zubamendi has on the team. First touch, staggered, vertical play is on the rise. We also see how he's arguably the world's best details player. I hope that makes sense. But there's also just an absurd amount of technique on show from Zubamendi. When you begin to combine all of this then, you get the couple of moments where we played through the Athletic Club press in the Champions League. Zubamendi plays a simple wall pass to Merino, who's spilled wide unmarked because Madueke is pinning the left back. But watch Zubamendi pass and move, bringing in Timber, and in this situation, although the camera is about 7 miles away, we should be releasing a runner in on goal. This is a player in Zubamendi that Rodri has openly readied Spanish football for, preparing them for a transition between the two of them in the side. Zubamendi has simply 2 touches in this sequence as Eze drives inside, and on a night where gaps were few and far between, he lays Eze, then gets it back, looping a switch over to Madueke on the far side with space to build up ahead of steam. This comes in the pre-season game against Athletic Club, where Saliba works an angle to find Rice and Zubamendi's on the move already. Rice plays Calafiori, who bumps to Zubamendi, who plays his own first-time pass to connect to Gyökeres. Zubamendi becomes our accelerator pedal in these moments, choosing when to up the speed and when not to. We've seen this kind of pattern before, the central centre-back firing it through to the right centre-mid, Zubamendi in the cover shadow, clipping over to Saka. This time it's Calafiori who's our release, with Zubamendi connecting us centrally, and it's fitting that this example comes against Liverpool, because I always return to this interview given by Arne Slot when he mentions Zubamendi's ability to be found in behind that first line of pressing, where he can turn and connect. The skill, though, is how easy and simple Zubamendi makes this look, how seamlessly he slots in with the others around him. And this is the balance that we've typically found, with that pairing of Zubamendi and Rice, a lot of the time tilted like this, but in reality they are constantly changing their heights, their sides, and complementing one another. This has suited a left back like Calafiori, who can float on top or to the sides, just looking for gaps and advantages, with Zubamendi often the one picking these out, breaking lines with a reverse pass to set the Italian away. I'm not going to repeat myself also on the importance of Calafiori this season, but as a midfield unit, especially when you add in Odegaard, Nwaneri or Merino, whoever's played in the right centre mid, our midfield has been as swirling and fluid as ever, but feels like it has a little extra pop. Zubamendi might go on a little carry, drift left, leaving Rice to sit deeper and ping a switch. Alternatively, Rice and Calafiori may make a barrelling underlap, leaving Zubamendi to receive and play in the space created. The Spaniard still sits lower too, of course, but he's increasing our tolerance to play that risky, higher reward pass. Here he's linking with Rice, who's making that diagonal movement to bring in Madueke. A matter of weeks ago, I was seeing people discussing why Zubamendi plays so free, full of ideas for Spain, and not for Arsenal. I had to step back for a minute, because Zubamendi plays exactly as he has for Spain, for Arsenal. I'll return to these kind of shots later, but Zubamendi is just as fun, just as imaginative, just as forward-thinking for us. His intentions, of course, don't always come off, but as I've said throughout the summer, being okay with losing the ball more is a good thing. To give you a sense of how stark a change this is for us, we see here the start of the Leeds match, Zubamendi trying to play the same line breaker into that high right pocket 3 times in a row in a matter of seconds, with each time him sprinting after the regain, and the final effort comes off, leaving the picture considerably more open than it began. And this isn't to misinform what Zubamendi does for us. I've just gone through all the invisible details, the flow in possession that he maintains. He's always probing, but not at the expense of control. He's sustaining the flow of possession in order to open up these smaller windows or openings that would typically pass you by. It's a tempo, a risk in certain spaces when the time is right, and as a team, we're learning to lean into this a bit more. Zubamendi receives it from Rice here, wriggles past a couple of players, a dribbling I think we can expect to see more in the future, and he lays it off to Odegaard, who tries to scoop in Madueke. It's lost, but look at the counter press, how close the distances are because of our overload, and who we have harrying after the turnover. It's Zubamendi who wins it back, and it's Gabriel who releases Madueke, with him and Gyökeres making their intent to run in behind clear, and the result is Gyökeres heading Madueke's clip cross onto the post. So this willingness to play a bit more opportunistically feels downstream as well from the step up we've taken off the ball with Zubamendi's addition as well. Now, I don't think he's been flawless here. There have been times where he's flown in a tad late. There's that foul that led to the Szoboszlai free kick at Anfield, with the only joy Liverpool having in that game being when they stretched our pivot deliberately a bit wider. But this was the only joy, and the only joy being a 30-plus yard free kick. The only goal we've conceded this season. No Arsenal player has turned the ball over more or made more interceptions than Zubamendi this season, and it's true that he's surrounded by the kinds of players that anyone would feel secure amidst. But although there are these little points to iron out, he's a very good defender in his own right. He's springy, both on the ground and in the air, a strong tackler in congested areas. He hasn't looked leggy, I don't think, running back towards his own goal, and he's not falling deep into the defensive line either. He's squeezing high in our press, which, although there has been some discontinuity up front, has looked watertight, cohesive and really aggressive in the lines behind. He hasn't been swallowed, I don't think, in games, and across my rewatches, I only remember him being robbed of possession once or maybe twice. But most significantly, I think the Premier League especially can make you begin as a defender to question your timing, whether you should jump. But Zubamendi has kept and even doubled down upon that lack of hesitancy of when to jump that he sported at Sociedad. But there are margins for improvement. I can confidently say right now that Zubamendi is already one of the best players at Arsenal Football Club. But that's why I want to demand so much more. Can we see a few more expansive dribbles? Of course, we are scaling up physically from Spain, but Zubamendi's initial burst and side to side are strong. There's more to show in his rangier passing too. It's true that Rice can quarterback, but if Zubamendi can find more of these conditions to pump those instant switches or knocks in behind to Madueke, or for our right back to run onto from deep, that's going to help us open up spaces in games a bit better that we still have to do. I'd encourage him and Rice to crisscross sides more, and this is not to repeat myself on what Rice brings to our right hand side play or could bring there, but equally how Zubamendi flows, combines and slips in runners on the left hand side. This was only for a matter of minutes at the end of the Champions League game against Athletic Club, but it wasn't trivial to me. Norgard sat holding, Zubamendi was pushed to the left, with Rice flanking on the right. That's one to keep an eye on. I came into this season believing that these kind of opportunistic runs, where he spies a pocket and gets a shot off, would be Zubamendi's best chance of goals. I did not have thumping volleys and backstick leaps on the cards. But should this be a surprise? Look at the timing, the efficiency, the technique on show throughout this video. It goes without saying though, if Zubamendi can add more of these hits or those killer whips we saw him assist Gyökeres with in pre-season, if he adds these to the clips, the disguise, the ambition he already shows around the box, then the 50 million he's already made look pretty humble becomes a snip. The way I'd assess Zubamendi's start would be immediately transforming, which emphasises the ongoingness of that transformation, but immediately refreshing too in terms of the team's ideas, temperament and attacking patterns. For example, I now see Odegaard swinging deep and right as just another way of progressing, not the only way of progressing the ball. And all of these positives come with maybe one or two minor blemishes, but I'm not prepared yet to lose sleep over these. I can say satisfyingly, I think I got Zubamendi bang on. Providing there aren't any unforeseen long-term injuries, I think any success we're going to have as a team this season is going to have his imprint well and truly on. And I'm bullish on the fact that I do think we will lift a trophy this year. I don't know what that will be, nor how many, because football always has a way of tripping you up when you feel like you're ahead. But I feel as a squad, we're in the best place we ever have been to deal with whatever this season throws up. As fans, we like to think that we're in control, and it's no different for coaches. That's why, if you don't take Zubamendi's influence, his quality from me, take it from Alonso, from De La Fuente, from Xavi, from Arteta, who has almost found a kind of proxy for himself on the pitch in Zubamendi. The hope is that this is only the start. The hope is that when we do finally take that next step, that we look back and go, of course, it was with Zubamendi in the team. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one. See you later.